have not been the biggest fan of the romance genre when it comes to books since the longest time, but I have watched like every top rom-com movie there is, to a point where now when I look for rom-com movies to watch, I don't find them that easily because I have watched each and every one of them. When I have no idea at all as to what I should be doing, I am not able to make any decision. I clean my room, I take a long nice shower, and I wrap myself up in my blanket and watch rom-com movies. When I am done with a very long day and I don't want to invest myself into something mentally, I go to rom-coms. When I want to treat myself, I order my favorite junk food, whatever I am craving that day, and I watch a rom-com with it. And when I don't know what I want to watch, I don't have specific suggestions, I watch a rom-com. I have watched so many rom-com movies repeatedly to travel back to the time when I actually watched it for the first time and feel those similar feelings again. Rom-com movies have been the biggest part of my life since childhood, but at the end of 2022, I entered the world of rom-coms in books. Romance books are not life-changing in a way that a non-fiction book is. Romance is actually as fictional as it gets. Romance books are also not unpredictable. Obviously, they end up together because if they don't, they wouldn't come under the category of romance, they would come under the category of tragedy. So if it is not life-changing, it is so obvious and it is not unpredictable at all. Why read romance at all? Romance is one of those genres that has turned a major chunk of people into readers because of how easy it is to read, how easy it is to fly through it. It is a sweet escape from reality, and nothing in this world will comfort you when you are in a turmoil and you don't know where to look for comfort like a romance book where you know that everything turns out to be okay. It will give you all the feels and you know nothing will go wrong. After the sprint I had in 2022, I was reading a few romances here and there, but last month I really got into it. I read one romance book and I decided to take a deep dive into the whole world of romance and binge on it to a level where I was actually waking up with a romance book in my hand and sleeping while reading a romance book. And so here I am after reading like 15 romance books in like 10-15 days. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice and I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. In today's video, I'm going to be recommending 15 binge-worthy, beginner-friendly romance books of every type. It will be deep, it will be cheesy, it will be spicy, it will be nice. Let's begin the video. The first book is the book that I started my binge with, and after this I was like, I don't know if I can read something with tension in it or not because I felt so comforted by it. And the book is Yes, No, Maybe. So if you have been watching my recent videos, I think you will be bored of this recommendation at this point. It was after reading this book and after feeling so comforted and so sweet and so like out of my head with this book that I was like, oh my god, I need more of this in my life. This is the story of Jamie and Maya. Jamie is a very shy person. He hates talking to anybody in the world, even though he has big dreams as to what he wants to do in his life, and that requires a lot of him interacting with people. Maya, on the other hand, is facing the divorce of her parents. She hates change, but she still has to go through it, and somehow Jamie and Maya fall into each other's life, and now they have to canvass for an election coming up. They have to go door to door asking people if they will vote or not and get the answer yes, no, maybe so. This is a YA romance, which means even if you are a teenager, you can read it, and it is the most adorable book ever. There is a certain level of emotions you feel when you're 16, 17, 18 towards someone, towards a cause, towards every person in your life. That vulnerability has been captured so beautifully in this book. It had me crying at multiple places, not because the book is sad, but because of how hopeful it is, because of how inclusive it is, and because of how cute and adorable it is. It warmed my heart up. So this book is a romance. The romance is very subtle, so if you're the kind of person who does not like it when the romance is on your face, you can definitely read this book. After that, I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, and I did not stop there because after that I also read Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter, and then I also read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I have read 3 books by the same author in my binge, and there is a reason for it, because nobody writes romance in such a warm way like Lynn Painter. The vibe with her books is that even though there will be certain evil characters like there is in every book, and by evil I don't don't mean like really evil or killers or something, but people who are like basically jerks. By the end of the book, they're not jerks anymore. So when you go into Lynn Painter's world, there is barely any toxicity, any negativity to witness. It is all flowers and sunshine, and it is honestly beautiful. The first book, The Love Wager, is an adult romance. It is a friends to lovers romance, which means that they're actually friends first and then they turn into lovers. This is the story of Jake and Hallie, who meet under unfortunate circumstances, and even though it is not advised, they have a fling, which then turns into a friendship, which then turns into something more. Their friendship is literally the cutest thing ever. Friends to lovers is actually one of the most comforting reads that you can have because there is barely any tension. On the other hand, it is filled with a lot of confusion. The guy falls first, which is the best thing for me. I just love it when the guy has fallen already and the girl is like in her own world and the guy is doing these little things to make her feel all cute and nice, but she's oblivious to it. It's just so much fun to read it, okay? All of that drama. Both these books have dual POV, which means you get to get into the head of both the characters. Then we have Mr. Wrong Number, which is actually the first part of The Love Wager, so you should actually read Mr. Wrong Number first and this second. However, it's not that sort of a series where you have to read the first book. In Mr. Wrong Number, we have Olivia, who gets a message from a random ass guy. It's not a very normal message, it's like such a random message, and Olivia's like, hello, who are you, what is going on? And Olivia in the first book is the sister of Jack in this book. Mr. Wrong Number and The Love Wager obviously have similar vibe, and they're both really giggly. Like, there is a lot of giggling that will happen when you're reading these two books. They do have spice in it, but very little bit, and it's barely graphic. Then I read Better Than the Movies. Now this again is a YA romance, which means you can read it even if you are a teenager, and this is my favorite book by Lynn Painter in all the 3 books that I have read. Don't get me wrong, I loved the other 2 books too, but this, oh my god, I already have a special place in my heart for YA. YA romance is just so adorable with its cuteness and its innocence. The characters in YA are not usually aware of what they should be doing, and they're still figuring out as to what these feelings mean, and seeing them figure out what their feelings mean and how their feelings actually affect their real life is just so nice to read. This one is the story of Liz and Wes. Liz is like in her own world of rom-coms, and she relates rom-coms with her mother because her mother and Liz used to watch rom-coms together all the time, but then she loses her mother. Each chapter in this book actually starts with a quote from a rom-com movie, and as I said, I have watched every rom-com movie in the world, so I knew every quote in the book. And then we have Wes, who is actually the most annoying person in the world according to Liz, and all they do is fight with each other over a parking spot, and they hate each other. And it's been a long time since her mother has died, but still she is very connected to her, obviously, and so she tries to live a life which she thinks her mother would want for her. In the entire process, Michael, her childhood crush, shows up out of nowhere, and Liz knows, she just knows in her heart after watching all of those rom-coms, this is fate and she has to do something about it, but she does not have any like direct connection with Michael. Wes is a better friend of Michael, and so Liz and Wes get together and plan things so that Liz can end up with Michael. But then when you read, you realize that it's all a mess. This entire plan and everything that she has to go through actually changes her perspective towards a lot of things. It's really cheesy, and Liz really has unrealistic standards, but it is one of her personality traits. What are you going to do? Wes is so good, so good. This one does not have dual POV, which kills me because I really wish I could read what is going on in Wes's mind also, because oh my god, there was not one page or one chapter in this book where I felt bored or I felt like, oh, this is too cheesy or it's too romancy. I loved every single part of it, and I did not realize how I flew through it. After reading all of those adorable, cute books with warm, adorable vibes, I wanted to explore another part of romance, and that is the spicy books. 2 books I have read which is spicy as hell. The other books also are spicy, but not this spicy, and they are both Tessa Bailey books, Secretly Yours and It Happened One Summer. I think I read Secretly Yours in February, and I think this is the first time I read a book like this where opposites attract. Hallie and Julian are complete opposites. Hallie is grieving her grandmother and she is the sunshine. Julian has taken a vacation, a sabbatical from work to write a book, and he's very like, oh, routine and control and everything should be perfect and planned. planned and organized, and they clash each other, but watching that tension when they clash each other and how they feel about each other even though they're so different from each other, all of this was so new for me. I devoured this book in one night. I actually thought that I'll read like 100 pages of it and then I will keep it, but then I finished the book at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I did not realize I did. After this one and after reading all of those cute books, I was like, I want more Tessa Bailey because I want to explore it more. Okay, it's just fun. And this one is the most recommended one by Tessa Bailey. It happened one summer. This one again is opposites attract, small town romance. Piper is this glamorous girl just like living her life, blah blah blah, and she doesn't always think about the consequences because she's not brought up to think about the consequences of her actions. But then she does something which is like so beyond appropriate that her stepdad decides to send her to Westport where her birth father lived and died. Piper and her sister have to go to a small town and they have to live a basic life which they are not used to at all, and you see their struggles with it. On the other hand, we have Brendan, the captain, oh my god. Brendan the captain is actually like the most responsible guy in the world, and he's a gentleman, and he's like all he has all of these values from his small town. He likes to show respect and kindness, and he knows the value of things. Piper is the sunshine, he is the grumpy. I love it when the guys are the grumpy in books. I mean, nothing satisfies me more than the guy being grumpy, because I like grumpy characters. They're just so focused and nice that it gives me a lot of satisfactions. Sunshine characters are just like doing dumb things. I don't understand why they do it. However, coming back to the story, you see what happens with both of them, how they judge each other, how they get over it. Both these books are adult, so do not read it if you are a teenager, but both these books have given me the feels. It is like literally the best distraction from the world, and it is the most unrealistic books to a level where Julian and the captain, they can tell me anything to do and I will do it, except for a few things. I don't know, in both the books there were a few things which I was not a fan of, but best binge-worthy books ever. Who would think that books with like these cute cartoony characters are that spicy? After that, I have literally the best adult romance that I have read in my entire life. This one is not spicy, at least not that spicy. It is about the story and the characters, and that is The Roughest Draft. I have never read such an amazing enemies to lovers ever. So much tension and so much I just feel so blessed that I got to go on a romance binge and read all of these books. Like, oh my god, this is the story of two authors who were at the peak of their career and they were writing books together, but then something happens when they're at the peak of their career and they have to split. Why did they split? We don't know, but they do have one more contract of one more book that they do have to write together. And so you watch them going on a retreat while they hate each other from like the bottom of their heart, but they are not going to show the hate to each other on their faces because they have to get along. So what they do is they put all of that hate out in their book on the characters of their book, and the tension is unreal. The angst between authors is unreal, and because they're both writers, you get to see how intense emotions are and how intense vulnerability is. This book has the best flow in the world. I did not realize how it went from that level of hate to that level of love, and most of the times in this book I was like, okay, did that just happen? Did they just say that to each other? Did they just do that to each other? Like, I cannot believe this. As this book has dual POV, which again makes it a very, very interesting read, because there are things that they don't say to each other, but you are reading them because you can get into their head, and that is the best thing ever. This is a highly, highly recommended romance novel. Next up, we have Set on You by Amy Leah. I got this book from the bookstore to romanticize my life, and that's the reason I got a romance book. This is a story of Crystal and Scott. Crystal is a Fitstagrammer and she's in the gym, and Scott just comes out of nowhere and takes her squat rack, and this has been going on since a few days, and at this point Crystal can't take it more. So you see a lot of like angst in the beginning of the book, and then her grandmother is about to get married, and then you come to know that the grandfather, who's going to be the grandfather of Crystal, his grandson is Scott, the squat rack stealer. So now they have to get along and they have to be with each other. So we see what happens with that, and I do wish that because the setup is of a gym and two people who are into fitness, so much tension can be built with a gym as the background. Like, it's so there could be a lot more heat than there was. Next up we have Begin Again by Emma Lord. I got this like 2 days back only. I got it at night and the next day I was done with it. This one again is YA, so you can read it if you are a teenager, and it has stolen my heart. This is more like if you have watched the series Mismatched, where all of the characters have their own life and you get to see their life, and it is all complementing, like all the characters are complementing each other and you're seeing what happens when they cross each other's path. That is what is going on in this book. Andy Rose has, again, oh my god, how many books have I read where they've lost their mother? She also has lost her mother. Since then, all she has wanted to do is get into this college where her mother studied, and her mother is actually a legacy over there. She wants to walk in her footsteps. Also, Andy's boyfriend Connor has been in the school since one semester already, and the long distance has not been going on well for them. So when she goes to the school, she's really excited to meet Connor because he has been that one constant throughout her life. But when she goes to the college, Connor is not over there. She is not fitting into the school and everything is a mess. While all these things are going on, she meets Milo, who, oh my god, Milo, his obsession with coffee and caffeine honestly is unhealthy and I do not support it. But every single time I have read about Milo in the book, I have wanted to have coffee. Milo is also messing with her head a little bit because Andy is getting feelings that she did not expect that she will get. So now everything is a mess. And there are other like 2-3 characters also, and you get to read their life too. The reason I have not liked romance in the past is because I have always wanted books which are deeper than like the surface level. But I have come to know right now that the best kind of romance I like is not about characters being mature, or not about, oh, characters having always like a soulful connection or something, but it's about characters being vulnerable with each other, which was there in the roughest draft, which was there in Yes, No, Maybe So. Now I have come to a point where I'm reading romance books which do not have that much of vulnerability, and it's more about just the two people loving each other and being romantic. That is it, romantic, lovey-dovey with each other. But I am still at my heart the biggest fan of books that include vulnerability and openness, and they're inclusive, and this is one of those books. All of the characters are so vulnerable and so tender. The relationship between Andy and Milo is so subtle. It's the most subtle thing ever, but you get all the romance feels out of it. It gave me a lot of like Radio Silence by Alice Oseman vibes. The way it includes mental health, the way it captures the sensitivity of all relationships, what is grief, what is loss, and how you move on and how you begin again is just beautiful. This is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. You have to read this one. Even if you're a teenager, you can read it, so read this one. Next, obviously this video will not be complete without 2 books by Emily Henry that I have read, and I am so excited about her new book Happy Place that is coming out this year, this month actually. This is the story of Nora and Charlie. Nora is a literary agent, Charlie is an editor. They have met multiple years ago. They did not really start off at the right foot, and then when they meet years later again in a small town while Nora is taking a vacation, they cross each other's paths and there's so much tension, and they realize that, oh, they have been judging each other and there has been a lot of prejudice, but in reality they are perfect for each other. The reasons I like this book is because the vibe is of coffee, books. You actually get into the head of book lovers. It is the one book that really validated my love for books and nothing else in the world. Plus, this is a story of 2 grumpy people. Both of them are grumpy. What can be better than that? And which is why I love this book. And then we have Beach Read, which is the story of 2 authors. January is also dealing with the death of her father. So much dealing with death in all of these romance books. So she's also dealing with the death of her father, and Gus is also dealing with things which I cannot talk about because it's apparently a secret, so you have to read it to understand. They're very opposite from each other. January is the sunshine, Gus is the grumpy. January likes romance, happily ever after, so she would like many of these books. Gus is a more literary fiction kind of a person, so he would basically hate all of these books. Another very flowy romantic book. My only issue with this book was that there was a lot of miscommunication, and I am not a fan of miscommunication in romance. Not this kind of miscommunication. I mean, be adults, talk to each other. Even young people talk to each other, so just talk to each other. Next up we have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. If you don't read this book in your rom-com binge, I don't know what you're doing. Olive actually has told her best friend that she has moved on from her current boyfriend, so like her ex, because she knows that her best friend and her ex like each other, but they won't do anything or they won't tell her because they don't want to hurt her, obviously. Now, instead of talking like adults again, what Olive does is that when she sees her best friend in the lab late at night, she just kisses a random person, and that random person is Adam, who is everything to me, by the way. And Adam is actually a professor. Adam decides that he's going to help Olive with all of this drama and convince her best friend that yes, Olive and the professor are together and that she can go out with Olive's ex. That is so complicated, like it's so difficult for me to say it every single time. It takes so much time. One of the most adorable books ever. This one also gets spicy, not as spicy as Tessa Bailey, but it does get spicy and it does get graphic. It's the closest to my heart. I love it so much. Adam is just so freaking dreamy. I feel like reading it again, honestly, but I'm so happy that another book by the same author is coming out, Love Theoretically, and I don't have to reread this. I can just read that. One romance book that I forgot to talk about because it's barely romance, but I did read it in the binge, is The No Show by Beth O'Leary. This is a story of 3 women being stood up by the same guy. Why is he not there in any of these dates? We don't know. And the reason I picked this up for my romance binge was because I wanted drama. But this one is less drama, less romance, more mystery, thriller, contemporary book, and more of the character arcs of the 3 women who have been stood up. As much as I love the 3 characters, the 3 women and their character arcs, it was like the best thing in the world. I did not enjoy the romance at all. So I'm not going to be recommending it as a romance book, but if you do enjoy contemporary fiction or like mystery, but at the same time underlying romance, then you will really like this book. And that is all I'll say about this. The next book is The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. Both the characters, Lucy and Cooper, are actually not allowed to fall in love with each other because of some restraints. For example, Lucy actually lives with her brother Drew, and Cooper is the friend of Drew, and Drew does not want Lucy to date his friend, so it's off limits. Cooper, on the other hand, is like, oh, all amazing, cool, but he's not ready to get into a very intense long-term relationship, which I hate. I just hate it. If there is one thing I hate in men and characters, is that they're non-committal. If you can't commit, get lost. However, they do feel attracted towards each other and you get to see what happens. And as much as I wouldn't want all of this drama in my own life, actually I wouldn't want most of the drama in all of the books that I have mentioned in my own life, I really thoroughly enjoyed reading all of that drama in this book. So if you like forbidden love, where people are not allowed to fall in love but they do fall in love, then you will love this book. And last but so not the least, I really wish there was some way for me to recommend all of these books as number 1 because I love all of them so much. We have The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. This one was a surprise. This was actually one of the most different books that I have read because I have never read books with like love and magic. This is the story of Gwen, or I really hope that's how you pronounce it. It's It's Gwyn. So Gwen and Wells. And Gwen and Wells have not started in the best way ever. They again hate each other. I have something for enemies to lovers, you guys. I love enemies to lovers. I mean, friends to lovers is like always nice and comforting, but enemies to lovers is just like, it's just all of that tension and drama is what I live for in romance books. Some things happen which should not have happened, which were not expected at all, but they did happen, and now they have to work together with each other. So a lot of drama. There's also some elements of mystery. The most difficult part for me was all of these names. Like, I cannot pronounce all the names and everything else going on, so that was the only problem. But apart from that, it was very cute, very adorable. You know, it's one of those kind of books that will end happily, so you're going to enjoy it a lot and it becomes a treat. This one is spicy but not very graphic. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Those were all the romance books that I have read in my romance binge, and that is it. I really hope you got at least one romance recommendation out of it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.